Are you guys ready? Yeah, awesome. Guys, remember we have to be very quiet, okay? Show me how quiet you can be. Thank you. Okay, this is our first animal. And she is pretty special and pretty cute. She may need some help coming out on her own, but I'm going to give her a couple seconds to try to come out on her own. What you doing, Dixie? Stay quiet, guys. So this is Dixie. Dixie is a silky bantam chicken. So there are a lot of really special things about Dixie. One of the really special things that I love about her is that her name is Dixie because she was a chick when we got her. And all the adults giggle and laugh, right? So Dixie's really special because she came to us from a hatchery here in Iowa. She did come with her sister. Her sister's name is Henrietta. I don't know if there's a pun on her name at all. But Henrietta's much, much braver than Dixie. So Dixie is a little bit more timid, a little bit more shy. She tends to let Henrietta take the lead. So she likes to let Henrietta show her what's going on. So Dixie here probably won't flap her wings too much. She's probably going to be pretty relaxed today, which I much prefer. So Silkies are a really interesting chicken for a lot of reasons. So you'll notice she's not very big, is she? She's pretty small. She won't get any bigger. She's full grown. Why don't you come over here? Come here. So she's not going to get any bigger. She's a very small breed of chicken. They lay itty bitty bitty eggs. She had an egg for me this morning that was about this big, which is probably about 3/4 of the size of an egg at the grocery store. So they're pretty small, and she really loves to lay on eggs. When she has an egg, she's not going anywhere. When she has an egg, she will lay on that egg all day long as you will let her. So we are very lucky to have her because she actually will incubate any egg. She doesn't care whose egg it is. She will lay on it, which is really, really cool. Another thing that's really cool about silky chickens is that they actually have black skin, which is very different from other chickens, right? Because you see a chicken at the fair, at the farm, and they don't have black on their face or on their feet, but she does, which is really, really neat. She also has black meat. So when you bite into your chicken nugget, what color is your chicken nugget inside? It's white, right? So her meat is actually black, which is really, really cool. And a lot of people don't quite know what to think of that. I think it's really, really neat. So they were actually bred originally in China. There's a soup called black chicken noodle soup, and that's the meat that they use. But they're really not a very good meat bird because they're not very big. They don't need... they're not the best meat bird because they are not a big bird. They don't produce much meat, but they are really good egg layers. So that's what they're mostly used for. My grandparents used to have them for years and years and years for laying. So they're a really good laying bird. I'm going to see if she'll go ahead and let me pick her up. She's a little bit more... Oh, that's a girl. Yeah, she is pretty cute. So another thing you'll notice about Dixie as I walk through is that I'm not going to get too close to you guys just because I don't want to scare her. She's a little bit timid. Like I said, she's kind of shy. So what you might notice about her is these feathers on her little paws here. I think they're called talons or claws. I'm not exactly sure. She is adorable. She actually has blue coloration on her face too. So you'll see the blue on her face, and you'll also see blue on her beak. So she actually has a blue beak, and that's just part of her skin being that darker color. So that's really, really cool, I think. What you think, girl? Loves going into Critter Corner. If you guys have been to the zoo, maybe you know what Critter Corner is. We have this outdoor area where she gets to go outside and look for worms and whatever bugs she might feel like eating. Oh, what's going on? She's a lot of fun. So her and Henrietta like to go out there and have a good time digging around and really checking everything out. They do live in our education department, so they are part of our ambassador animals, so they come to programs like this. You're not going to see them on display in the zoo. The only time you'll see them in the zoo is at a program or in Critter Corner. So they're really, really awesome chickens. Does anyone have any questions about Dixie? Right here. Yeah, what's your question? What's that? Is she a girl? Yes, she is a girl. So her and her sister were both hatched out the same day, and we got them the next day. They were 1 day old when we got them, and they looked like little cotton balls. They were so, so cute. Yeah, what's your question? Do I have a cat? Not with me, no. No, wish I did though, right? What's your question? You went to the zoo on Friday? That's so awesome. What's your question? We can't feel her today. So I forgot to mention we do have one touch animal. So the touch animal is going to be our very last animal. So we're going to save her for the end. So when we get there, we can touch her, but the rest of the animals are no touch today. Yeah, just because there's so many. What's going on? What's your question? How old is she? She's almost a year old. Her first birthday is this year. Or this month. Yeah. Yeah. Does she have any wings? She does have wings. And in fact, usually when I bring her out, she flaps her wings and kind of stretches because she's been in the car for a while, right? Yeah. Hi. Oh, it's so nice to have friends, isn't it? Oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, that's so sweet. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next animal, I think. Okay, say bye to Dixie. Bye. Thank you, Dixie. Come on. All right, we'll see if she likes to go in or if she's going to be grumpy about it. What do you think? All right, buddy, let's have a seat, please. Thank you. Good girl, Dixie. She is so, so sweet. All right. I don't know. I think we'll have to wait to find out what the next animal is. It'll take me a few seconds to get readjusted in between animals, so just bear with me. All right. I think we'll do this one. So this animal is going to be kind of tricky to see, okay? So when you do come up for touching later on, you can take a closer look at this animal, okay? But this is one of my very favorite animals in the whole world, and I can't wait to tell you all about them. Voices back to a 0, please. When we have our voices to a 0, I'll keep going, okay, guys? I know, it's really exciting. Okay, so I heard some people say it. What do you think it is? Raise your hand. A tarantula. Yes, tarantulas are such cool animals, and I know a lot of people are scared of them, but there's really nothing to fear. This guy especially, this is Lars. Lars is what's called a white-toed tarantula, and they live up in the trees. So that's why Lars's enclosure is taller rather than shorter. And he's got some really cool plants in here. So Lars lives down in South America. And in South America, Lars is going to live up in the trees to munch on all the yummy stuff that's living up in the trees. And they're really good at pest control. So they're going to eat all the bugs you don't want to deal with. And that includes your house spiders, too. House spiders also do a really good job keeping control of pests, okay? Does anyone know what makes tarantulas and spiders so cool? What's one of the things? In the yellow, right here. You right there. They eat wasps, yes. They're furry. She is very furry. She's very, very fuzzy. Yeah. They're venom. Yes, they are venomous. So Lars's venom is really going to be more like a bee sting. There are some species that are in other parts of the world that are going to be a little bit more potent, and you probably don't want to get bit by them. But Lars here, she's pretty friendly. I don't know why her name is Lars, but her name is Lars. She's pretty friendly, and she doesn't really put up much of a fight. She's very docile is the word for that. So she's pretty relaxed. She really isn't going to cause much issue if you do get bit by her. And no one's going to get bit by her today. I will never probably even get bit by her either. But they are really not very potent at all. It's not very strong venom. What else is really cool about them? Let's think about how they're made. Yeah? Do they crawl on me? They don't crawl on me. No. Did you know? What do you know about spiders? Yeah, they crawl, yeah. So spiders have 8 legs, and that's what they crawl with. They have 8 legs, and they actually have 2 extra legs that you might not even know about. Did you know they have 2 little legs, too? On the very front, they're called pedipalps. And those, I like to call them grocery getters, because that's what they grab their food with. Yeah. I have lots of funny names. We'll get to questions in a second, okay? So I have lots of funny names for spider stuff, because like I said, spiders are my very favorite. They're so, so cool. But they have those 2 little legs in the front called pedipalps, and then their fangs are right in the middle of that. And their fangs are nice and sharp, but they're tucked underneath, and you'll probably never see them unless the tarantula is really, really grumpy. And then you probably should just go the other way, because they're not very happy in that case. Yeah, what's your question? She could bite. That's a good question. She could bite. So anything with a mouth can bite. You can bite, right? Yeah, I can bite, your dog can bite, your cat can bite. Anything with a mouth can bite. So that's what's really important, is having a lot of respect for animals, right? So we want to make sure we're treating animals kindly. We're not poking them or jabbing them or smacking them or anything like that, because they can't talk with words, can they? No, they can't talk with words. They don't have any way to tell us what's going on. So they use things like smell and touch, and in this case, biting would be part of that touch. They use their other senses in order to let us know what's going on. And if they don't want to be bothered, they're going to let you know, right? And sometimes biting is the way to do that. Yeah, but she's really only going to bite food. She's most excited about food. She's a little bit heavy. She's a little bit chunky. She really likes to eat. Don't we all? But she'll molt out. So what they do to grow their skin, actually, their skin doesn't grow with them like our skin does. So their skin is an exoskeleton. So that means their skeleton is on the outside of their body. They don't have a skeleton on the inside. Isn't that weird? Isn't our skeleton's on the inside, right? Yeah, our skeleton's on the inside, theirs is on the outside. So in order to grow bigger, they have to get rid of that exoskeleton. And that process is called molting. So they shed their skin kind of like a snake does or any other reptile. They shed their skin, they get new fangs, they get new spinnerets, they get all that stuff is brand new. And some people wake up and are like, whoa, I have 2 tarantulas all of a sudden, because it looks just like a real tarantula, because it was at one point. So they do go through that process, which is really cool. And once you come up to see her, you'll see why she's called a white-toed tarantula. She actually has white little toes on the edge of her legs. She's really, really cute. Yeah, do you have a question? Do they have 8 eyes? Yes, they do. And their eyes are all clustered up in one little tiny section on the front of their head, kind of. It's hard to explain where they're at, but it's towards their fangs. And it's in this little cluster, so all their 8 eyes are put together. And they actually have this little mohawk in between all of those eyes, and it's pretty cute. Yeah, it's pretty adorable. So they do have 8 eyes. They have 8 legs. Guys, let's get voices back to a 0, please. We'll get there. We'll get to the red cooler. So they have 8 eyes. They have 8 legs. They have 2 bonus legs that we didn't even know about. And they also, how do they get their web down? Does anyone know that? Yeah. Yeah, with their spinnerets. Was that what you were going to say? Yes, they're spinnerets. So I call their spinnerets their butt fingers. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I like lots of funny names for spider stuff, right? So I call them butt fingers because when they're spreading the web out on the floor, it kind of looks like they're using little fingers. And they actually have 4 of those, but you only get to see 2. There's 2 that are really, really tiny on the very bottom, and you'll probably never see them unless you're looking at an old skin or you're way too close to a tarantula. So, yeah, what questions do we have about spiders and tarantulas? How long do they live? That's a really good question. So it kind of depends. So some species can live 40 years. Yeah, and some species don't live long at all. Some can I think the shortest that I know of is the females living around 10 years, which is still a long time for a pet. So 30 or 40 years is even longer, and a lot of people don't know what they're even doing in 30 or 40 years, so does it make sense to get an animal that you don't know you'll be interested in 30 or 40 years? Probably not, right? So the males, after they mature and become ready to make babies, they don't live very long at all. They live like a year. So it just depends. So they'll live probably close to 5 or 6 years total for the males, but females live a lot longer because their job is to make as many babies as they can, and they have a lot of babies. They can have up to 1,500 babies in one egg sac, depending on what species it is. That's a lot of babies, okay? That's a lot of babies. And you know what? That's because not all of them live. So some of them aren't going to make it, so that's why they have way too many. So ideally, a good amount of them makes it to adulthood. Okay, what other questions do we have about spiders? Yeah? Can you speak a little bit louder? At your school you heard about bugs? That is awesome. Yeah? What do they eat? Really good question. So tarantulas and spiders are going to eat pretty much anything they can smaller than them. So they don't eat plants. I'll get to you in a second, okay? They don't eat plants. They are strictly carnivores. So they eat only bugs. They can eat small mammals like mice, depending on the size. But they can eat stuff that's as big as their body. Can you eat a cheeseburger as big as your body? No, right? I can't either. Sometimes I think I can, but I can't. So they can eat prey as big as their body, which is really, really cool. And then they just don't eat very often. Some of them can go a year without eating in the wild, which is a long time. Yeah? Can they eat mosquitoes? Maybe if they're really little spiders. But like Lars, that would not be big enough. That wouldn't fill his belly very well, would it? No, not quite. What's your question? I'll get to you in just 1 second, okay? Does she eat leaves? No, she doesn't eat leaves, just bugs. She eats crickets at the zoo. Yeah. You saw a puppy outside? That's so awesome. Do you have a question? I'll get to you in a second. Yeah, fish can eat bugs too. Yeah, yeah. Did you have a question? Why do the bugs eat fish? I think the fish eat the bugs, right? But you know what? There's probably some bugs that do eat fish. Yeah. What's your question? Do fish eat ants? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not the fish expert. I'm the spider expert. Yeah. Do they come from eggs? Yes, that's a great question. So, guys, back to a 0, please, with our voices. Thank you. So, yes, tarantulas do come from eggs. So mom will lay an egg sac, and she'll lay this webbing out, and she'll lay her eggs, and they kind of come out like a jelly. And then they separate into eggs later on. And so they are eggs, and then they become eggs with legs. That's what it's called. And it literally looks like the egg, but it just has these little legs on it. And then they start molting into the stages that look like an actual spider from there. That's a really good question. Yeah. How does it poop? Yeah, so it poops just like we do, but you know what? It only has one place to go. So it just goes in its enclosure and it can't flush it. These guys like to poop on the side of their enclosure. So I have to go in and spray it and wipe it out, but I don't mind. It's not too bad. It doesn't smell or anything. It's just messy. Yep, so they poop just like we do. Yep. What was your question? Do they eat spiders? They will. Most tarantulas and spiders are super, 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 what's that word? Territorial, yes. There's another word that I'm thinking of. They will eat each other almost any time they're around each other. There are some species that can live together, but most of the time that's a big no-no because they will eat each other. Yeah, what's your question? What's that? Oh, why does it cover itself? Because she's a little bit shy. Yeah, so they don't hear the way that we hear. They feel things. So all the sounds in this room, she can feel. So that's why I say when it's a little bit too noisy, it kind of scares all the animals because they don't really know what's going on. They think that we're a bunch of big predators that might come to get them. So we got to be real careful with our volume. So that's why she's kind of scrunched up right now. She's trying to hide and look a little bit smaller. But they do spread out. She was spread out when I went and got her this morning, and she's pretty big. She's about that big. She's got a really pretty blue, her body is like a blue teal color. And then she's got these really fluffy hairs on her, and the tips of those hairs are white. They're very, very pretty. Yeah?
Will the mom tarantula eat the babies?
The mom tarantula sometimes will eat the babies, but most of the time they don't. Yeah, most of the time they don't. Sometimes the babies will eat each other, and that happens. Yeah, I don't want to eat my brothers and sisters, but in the animal world, they don't care. Yeah? Why did I bring it here? You know what? I think tarantulas are so cool. I want to share them with everybody. And that was the animal they assigned me today. So. What's that?
I thought it was too cold for them here.
No, it's not too cold for them here. So what's really cool about tarantulas, rather than reptiles, so reptiles are cold-blooded, right? So sometimes they get too cold. But tarantulas aren't like that. They don't even have blood. They have hemolymph, and it's kind of like it's not even really like blood. It's like a milky whitish fluid, and it just sits in their body. They don't even have veins. They just have an open circulatory system, and it just sits in their body. So they're not cold-blooded or warm-blooded, so they can't really feel the temperature the way we can. We just make sure they don't get too hot or way, way, way too cold, which would be like 40s. So we're plenty warm today. One more question. I do like tarantulas a lot. A little bit too much, maybe. They will eat other spiders, yeah. I know, it's crazy. Okay, we're going to move on to the next animal, guys. I'll put Lars away. Can you have a seat, please, sweetie? I'm going to leave Lars there. Sorry about that, guys. I forget that the hinges don't work on some of these. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Got to keep our voices low, guys, okay? Okay, so I've heard the word already a few times. This is a snake. Yeah. So this is what's called a Kenyan sand boa. And this snake is not a very big snake, is it? Nothing to be afraid of, right? I know, there's some questions, isn't there? So this is, I have to remember how to say their name because I always say it wrong. Nagini. It's from Harry Potter. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, so I don't ever know the names. But this is Nagini. Nagini is a Kenyan sand boa. So Kenyan sand boas are from Africa. They're from out in the desert. And they do a really good job digging and going underneath the sand. So their face is a little bit different. I like to call them noodles. In fact, I have two of these guys at home, and they're named after different kinds of noodles because they just don't look like a snake at all, do they? So their face does a really, really good job digging in the sand. Their eyes are in a little bit different spot, and their eyes will stick out on the sand, underneath the sand, and their eyes will poke out, and they can watch for predator or prey as the prey is walking by. So they're going to bury themselves underneath the sand as best they can, and they do a really good job of it too. Their scales are really, really smooth. We're not going to touch him today. So their scales are really, really smooth, and those scales do a really good job sliding underneath stuff. So we keep these guys on sand because they are sand boas, right? So that's how we keep them, and I like to put them in the sand and watch them disappear because they just go right down in there, and they're really, really cool animals. Their face is kind of stubby, and you'll see that as you get closer. It doesn't look like a big boa constrictor face or a ball python face, for example, or Burmese or anything like that. It's a very short, chubby face. They're really, really a cool snake. So they don't look scary at all, I don't think. I think they look kind of dorky, but that's what I like about them. I think they're really cute. Do you guys see him sticking his tongue out? You might not be able to because he's so small, but he is sticking his tongue out. You see him sticking his tongue out? Yeah, he just stuck his tongue out. So do you guys know what he's doing with his tongue? He's smelling, exactly. That's exactly right. So snakes have what's called a forked tongue. So that means their tongue is kind of shaped like this on the end. So they take those two tips. When they smell, they bring their tongue back into their mouth, and they stick those two tips into a special organ in their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. And that Jacobson's organ helps them process those smells and know what's around them. Cats actually have a Jacobson's organ as well, which is really cool. So if you ever see your cat, and your cat's got their mouth open and they're kind of going, that's what they're doing. They're smelling something really, really yummy in the air. Who knows what it is? With a cat, it could be anything. But that's what they're doing, which is really cool. So that's how these guys know if there's predators around, if there's prey around, what animals I've been holding all day. They can smell it on me. They can sense a lot of different things with that special organ. So we're not going to pet him today, sorry. So that's what's really cool about reptiles, and a lot of reptiles do have them, have the Jacobson's organ and the forked tongue. So that's what I think is really cool. What do you think his colors do? Why is he this color? Camouflage, is that what you said? Yes, exactly right. So he's going to do a really good job camouflaging in rocks, in sand, and in all maybe the vegetation in the area. So he's going to do a really good job of hiding. And his job is to hide really, really well because he does what's called like a surprise attack. He does ambush feeding. So when he feels a little, he'll bury himself in the sand. When he feels a mouse come by, he'll jump up out of the sand and he actually side strikes. So rather than striking this way, he strikes sideways and grabs the prey like that and pulls it under the sand and constricts it. And that's how he eats. Do you know do snakes eat bite by bite, or do they eat everything whole? Everything whole, exactly. So do you know why they can do that? Because that would be pretty tough, don't you think? I can't eat a cheeseburger whole. I'm hungry, can you guys tell? So I can't eat a cheeseburger whole. I don't know if you guys can, but most people can't do that, right? So they have these really special bones. Everybody's bones have a place in humans where they join right here. And snakes don't have that. They have tendons there instead. So that's why I have this kind of butt chin, because that's just how my face is made, where that fusion happens. So snakes don't have that fusion. They have tendons there that are elastic, and they stretch. So you can actually see it if you're watching a snake eat and you're looking at the underside of them. You'll be able to see that stretching happen, and they can they can pull their jaws out as far as they can to get prey all the way in. So they will stretch as big as they can, and if we ate all of our food the way that they eat their food, in proportion, it would be like us eating a watermelon whole, which is pretty crazy. I can't do that. I don't know about you guys, but I can't do that. So it's pretty amazing that animals are able to have adaptations like that, and they're able to have such cool things that make them very special and allow them to survive. Yeah? You have a snake at your house? That's so cool. Yeah, what's your question? You can't see what? The tongue, yeah, he's pretty small. He's not a very big snake, and he probably won't get any bigger. This is about as big as sand boas get. especially males. Males don't get very big. The females get about 3 times the size of the males, but they're still not a big snake, really. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Like in the garden, I have
You have worms in the garden? Yeah, he kind of looks like a worm, doesn't he? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Yeah. How fast does he go? He's pretty quick. You'd be surprised, especially in the sand. On carpet, he wouldn't be very quick, but in the sand, he does a really good job. Guys, let's keep our voices quiet, please. Thank you. So he's pretty quick. I couldn't tell you exactly how many miles per hour he slithers, but he's pretty quick. He could get away from you pretty easily if he wanted to. Yeah. Oh, at home? Oh, I've got linguine, and I have lasagna, and then I have rotini. So they're all named after different kinds of noodles. Yeah, they just look like noodles. I couldn't name them anything different. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought his tongue sticking out like really bad on the side right there.
Yeah. Yep, he does stick his tongue out. Yep. Yeah, he sticks his tongue out so he can smell. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? In the yellow, what's your question? You know how fast snakes go? How fast? 50 miles per hour. We should measure that. That's really cool. Yeah. You know how to say the name? Nagini. Oh, someone at work said Nagini, so they might not know how it's pronounced either. Okay, Nagini. I'll say it right next time. Okay, any other questions back here? Yeah.
How do they get their water?
How do they get their water? That's a great question. So most snakes, they get most of the moisture they need from their food, but they will still drink. So they'll kind of dip their head into the water, and you can actually watch the water get gulped up through their body. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. You can actually probably find videos on YouTube or something like that if you wanted to see it. Okay, yeah.
How long can their mouth go up to?
How long can their mouth grow up to? Oh, I don't know. So they can eat something about the size as they are wide. So we want prey about this big around. So he can eat an adult mouse, if that helps. He probably could go a little bit bigger than that, but sometimes it's not very healthy to eat stuff bigger than we really need it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Do snakes poop? Yes, they do. Snakes poop just like we do. They've got this thing right here. I call it a vent, but the technical term for it is a cloaca. So they just have one hole and everything comes out at once. It's pretty gross. So they have their poop, part of their poop, and then they have part that's called a urate, which is their pee, and then they have a little bit of liquid that comes with it. Yep, good question. Yeah. Where do the females lay their eggs? These guys actually give live birth. Yeah, but a lot of snakes do lay eggs, so that's a common misconception that they either lay eggs or give birth, and there are snakes that do both. So yeah.
Where's the part that the eggs physically and then like the eggs smell in the body and then the babies come out like?
Yep.
Where's the part of it?
It'll come from the same hole, same spot. Yeah, isn't that crazy? It can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. How much does it grow to? This guy's about full grown, so he's going to be probably about 18 inches at best. So at biggest, he'll be about 18 inches, probably not any bigger than that. The females can be about 3 feet long. Yeah, so that's like a big snake to not snake people, but to not snake people, they're like, oh, that's a tiny snake. Did you have a question? Yeah.
How do snakes lay their eggs?
Yeah, so when snakes lay their eggs, they have that same hole that they go out of the bathroom. That's what they're going to use. So they're going to find a safe place to lay their eggs. They're going to lay their eggs and then wrap around them to keep them safe. Good question. Okay, one more question on the snake. How many eggs do they lay? Good question. So these guys, I'm not exactly sure. There are some snakes, like Burmese pythons, that can lay up to 50 eggs, which is why there's such an issue in the Everglades. But there are some snakes that are only going to have 10 to 15 babies. So it just depends on the species. This species, I want to say, is closer to like 30, but I could be wrong about that. So you might want to fact check me on that. Yeah. We're not going to touch him today. We're going to touch our last animal, which is our next animal. Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put Nagini. Is that how you say it? Okay, Nagini. Thank you. Obviously, I'm not a Harry Potter fan because I can't even say the name right. All right, let's say goodbye. Okay. Now, you guys are going to think you know what this animal is. I promise. But it's actually different than the animal you'll think it is. Come here, honey. Come on, you got to let go of me for a second. Looks like a hedgehog, doesn't it? I know, she's super, super cute. It's really hard. So this is Indigo. And Indigo looks a lot like an animal you know, doesn't she? Probably like two animals you know. So she probably looks a little bit like what? A hamster? Okay, three animals you know. Yeah, she looks kind of like a hamster, doesn't she? Yeah. A hedgehog? She looks just like a hedgehog, doesn't she? What's one more? What is she? We'll get there in a second. Like a porcupine. That was the third one I was looking for. Yeah. So Violet here, nope, Indigo. This is Indigo. She has a sister named Violet we also have. So Indigo here, she is what's called a lesser hedgehog tenric, which is a long name, and it says hedgehog in it, but would you believe me if I told you they're not even related? They're not related at all. Isn't that crazy? What do you think her closest relative is other than a hedgehog? A porcupine? Or a rat? That's a really good guess, yeah. Actually, their closest relative, their closest relative is the elephant. I know. It doesn't even seem right, does it? It's kind of crazy. So this little girl is most closely related to an elephant. She's not even related to hedgehogs at all. But it doesn't seem like that's right, does it? So these guys come from Madagascar. They're only found in Madagascar, and there's 20 different species of tenrics found in Madagascar. So what's really cool about that, you guys have probably all seen the movie Madagascar, right? Raise your hand if you have. I haven't, so you'll have to bully me later about that. But so she's from Madagascar. Like, can I have you have a seat, buddy? Can you come sit down, please? So she's from Madagascar. About 85% of the species that live in Madagascar or are native to Madagascar are only found in Madagascar because Madagascar is an island, so you can only find those things there. So that's what's really cool about Madagascar. That's why the movie Madagascar is so cool, because they talk a little bit about that biodiversity. She really clutches onto my fingers. She loves my fingers. So she's nocturnal, so that means that she's awake at night and sleeping during the day. And in fact, I woke her up to bring her here. And she's okay. She doesn't mind getting woken up too much because she gets snuggles and she likes snuggles. She will often try to climb inside my shirt to stay nice and warm, but I don't let her do that because she is a little pokey. This back here, these look a lot like quills, don't they? But they're not actually quills. It's hair that has been modified to look like quills. But she didn't modify it herself, of course. That would be crazy. But over time, she has, their species has become to look this way. So she's got these really cool spines on her back. She can puff up and kind of make herself look bigger like hedgehogs do. So she's going to use a lot of the same techniques that hedgehogs do to stay safe. So she's going to kind of hiss a little bit. She's going to puff up to make herself look bigger and a little bit scarier, as big and bad as she can look, right? Because she's not that big and bad. But she'll try. She's got these really, really tiny eyes. And when you guys come up to touch her, that's why I chose her for the touch animal, because she's so little. I wanted you guys to be able to see her really close up. So when you do get to touch her, you'll see that she's got really teeny, 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 tiny eyes. So those are for seeing really well at night. But she really doesn't see all that well at all. She smells really, really well, though. So her best sense is her smell. And she's got that really cute long nose, and she's always wiggling her nose around to smell new smells. She's just so cute. I can't get over these guys. They're so cool. She's got a really cute little tail. that's just a bonus. I don't think there's any evolutionary need for that. I just think it's really cute. But yeah, they are insectivores. They're going to eat some things that they find out in the jungle and in the areas that they're living. So they're going to dig through with their nose here. Their nose is a really good tool to dig. And that's how they're going to find their insects to eat. Yeah, did you have a question? How fast can they run? You know what? She's pretty slow. I compare her kind of to a sloth. She's not in any hurry to get where she's going, and she really doesn't move around a whole lot. I have only really seen her during the daytime, and she tends to be a little bit sleepy during the daytime, so she doesn't move very much. She slept the whole way here, and she is taking mini naps in my hand right now. Yeah. Yeah, she does stick her tongue out kind of. I don't know why she does it, but she does stick her tongue out. Yeah. You like sequins and hedgehogs? Is that what you said? That is so cool. I love sequins and hedgehogs too. Yeah.
I know that's actually a porcupine.
She looks a lot like a porcupine, doesn't she? But she's actually not a porcupine. I know, it doesn't even seem right that she's not a porcupine or a hedgehog, but she's really not. I promise. Yeah. How big can they get? Good question. So Indigo here is full grown, but she's a little bit small. Her sister is about twice her size. So I don't know if Indigo was the runt of the litter. I'm not exactly sure. All I know is that her sister's much, much bigger than she is, and Indigo does get some special food to help her keep up. They're pretty old. They're kind of probably towards the end. That sounds terrible, but they're probably about 6 or 7 years old. They don't live a whole lot longer than that. So she's kind of an old lady, but we love her all the same. Yeah.
Does she make any noises?
She does a little bit. She hisses just barely, but it's really hard to hear unless you're super up close with her. Yeah, 1 second, okay? Yeah. No, we're gonna do a line, and we're gonna make sure that we're not cutting or anything like that, everybody, okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. So he asked what predators this guy has. So in the wild, she's gonna have predators like snakes. Basically anything bigger than her that wants to eat her can eat her. So snakes, lizards, birds, people probably. I don't know if they're going to eat her, but people are usually a predator. Another fact about Madagascar is that I think it's 60% of their species there are endangered. And that's mostly due to trafficking and human consumption. So keep that in mind when you're wanting to get an animal from Madagascar. Yeah, I'll come to you in a second, okay? We're not going to hold him, but we can touch her in the very end, okay? And I'll show you guys how we're going to do that. Yeah. You've never seen, you know what? I had never seen one before I went to the zoo. Before I started working at the zoo, I didn't even know what a tenrec was, but they're one of my favorite animals now. Yeah. How old is she? I think she's 6 or 7, but I might be wrong about that. I want to say she's 6 or 7 years old. So she's young when it comes to years, but she's old when it comes to her species. Yeah, what's your question? Do they have tails? Yeah, she's got that cute little tail right there. I don't know the purpose for it because it doesn't look like it does a whole lot, but it's pretty cute, right? Okay, one more question. When she's a baby, you know, I've never seen a baby tenrec before in person, but I would imagine if she's full grown, they're probably pretty tiny. They're probably like little tiny, maybe like that big.